Most commercial tenants find themselves in a captive position at some time or another. Captive tenant syndrome is a situation whereby the tenant's lease is expiring, the tenant has no desire or intention to move, and the landlord knows it. Under this circumstance, the tenant is in no position to negotiate with the landlord for the things they need for their business. There are several primary causes of captive tenant syndrome. Number 1, the tenant is uneducated about the marketplace. Most business operators are simply too busy to monitor market conditions or to know what options are available out there. Number 2, tenants like their current space. Even if the tenant knows what is available in the marketplace, they believe their space is fine. Any potential advantages are not worth the hassles of relocation, and they just prefer to stay put. Number 3, cost and hassle of relocating. The tenant holds a belief that relocating is expensive and troublesome. Too much business interruption. Number 4, poor timing. By the time the tenant realizes they need to do something, it's too late and there's no way they can move, and the landlord understands this. Number 5, tenant has a good relationship with the landlord. The tenant believes that the landlord is a good friend, treats them well, and is going to take care of them. They might be afraid to butt heads with a buddy in negotiations. Number 6, the tenant is too busy or too lazy. The tenant doesn't have enough time to proceed through the necessary steps of negotiating for their real estate. It's just easier for tenants to strike up a friendly conversation with the landlord and hope that he plays fair. There are definitive ways of combating captive tenant syndrome and to give yourself leverage in discussions with your landlord, even if you have no intention to move whatsoever. The only way to get your landlord to negotiate in good faith is for him to understand that you could in fact leave his building. Step 1. List pros and cons. Make a simple list of all the things you like and dislike about your office space. Be honest. Consider location, building amenities, signage, size of space, lease terms, paint and carpet, office layout, lease rates, building operating costs and pass-throughs, tenant mix, in other words, other tenants around you, parking issues, and all sorts of other considerations that could potentially be improved. Step 2. Retain representation. Get some expertise on your side. The simple fact that you enter into discussions with representation indicates to the landlord that you are educated and informed, presented with other options, and render him far more likely to negotiate in good faith with you. Evaluate the actual cost to relocate. Do you know how much it would cost? Your commercial real estate advisor will help you calculate this cost. Consider that relocation for most companies will be more than offset by the amount of free rent landlords are offering in the marketplace. Step 4. Learn about the commercial real estate market. Simply educate yourself. Read some market reports. Speak with brokers who are in the know and who have an accurate pulse on local market conditions. Try to bring yourself up to speed so as not to be at such a tremendous disadvantage in your discussions with the landlord. Step 5. Tour candidate buildings. Your commercial leasing advisor will coordinate property tours with you based on whatever criteria is important to you. You'll never know what is out there or to be able to speak intelligently on your commercial leasing options unless you spend a couple hours touring prospective buildings. You can find buildings on your own, but it's likely more time and cost effective to have a professional arrange this for you. Step 6. Enter into negotiations. Many tenants begin with asking their landlord for a leasing proposal or offer. Instead, this needs to be one of the last steps in your process. Don't enter into discussions until you've been educated on the marketplace, evaluated advantages and disadvantages of your building and other buildings, solidified a negotiation strategy with your advisor, and are fully prepared to engage in these discussions. As an additional bargaining chip, consider the landlord's cost for you to leave the building. Most tenants are too preoccupied with their own costs and relocation hassles to consider the landlord's position. Just a little bit of real estate math should demonstrate that your tenancy is significantly more valuable to the landlord than you might think. You'll never hear this stuff from your landlord or the landlord's broker, and the numbers can be astounding. Let's assume your company is leasing 5,000 square feet of space, perhaps a typical mid-size law firm office. Your rental rate is $18 per square foot per year, which is a typical Class B+, A- building full-service lease rate. This would calculate to a $7,500 monthly rental payment. If you decide to relocate or effectively take your business elsewhere, your landlord is going to incur some significant costs. The first is vacancy. Let's assume it will take the landlord 6 months to find, negotiate, and commence a lease for the next tenant in your space, although statistics say it will take much longer. In the meantime, the space sits vacant and the landlord is losing out on rent he would have been collecting from you. Calculated cost to the landlord, $45,000. The next cost is free rent offered to the next tenant. As a necessary incentive to entice tenants to move in, the market norm for negotiated free rent is about 1 month of free rent for every year of lease term. Assuming the new tenant is signing a 5-year lease, the landlord will need to provide 5 months of free rent. Cost to the landlord, $37,500. The next cost is a tenant improvement allowance for that next tenant. As much as you love your suite, chances are that the next tenant is not going to enjoy the chipped paint and worn carpet that you left behind. It's also very likely the new company moving in will need to move a few walls around or make some small adjustments to the suite to make it right for them. A conservative tenant improvement allowance for a 5-year deal is approximately $15 per square foot. Cost to the landlord, $75,000. Last would be brokerage commissions. As you know, brokerage commissions are paid exclusively by the landlord and not the tenant. These are costs to making a deal. Listing agreements dictate these terms such that this money is paid out regardless of whether the new tenant has broker representation or not. Typical market commissions are about 7.5% of the total value of the new tenant's lease obligation. Cost to the landlord, $35,250. Add it all up and the total marginal cost for the landlord for losing a 5,000 square foot tenant is $192,750. Amazing. Gratis Commercial Leasing Advisors located in Orlando, Florida is available to educate you on your options and to help you avoid captive tenant situations. Call us early, set up a game plan, and we'll call you back when it's time to take action. You won't pay us a penny. Under proper advisement, you'll invest minimal time and you won't interrupt your business operations at all. We look forward to hearing from you soon and wish you all the best of luck with your real estate.